Annouchka Bayley, talking from the UK on posthuman education for online environments. This is a very short talk that is going to discuss and provoke and explore different kinds of ideas that have come or are coming in from posthumanism and new materialism and these kind of discursive areas and disciplines and thoughts, and how relevant they are when it comes to thinking about working online, teaching online, and what it could mean. Not just what it means currently and how we can kind of put a plaster on it or a band-aid or whatever and kind of make do at the moment, but really how, with the situation that we have with lockdown and coronavirus and moving all of our teaching suddenly online, really how we can start to think about what this means and how we can do more meaningful teaching, or explore what it could be to work in an online environment in a way that works for us. So it's not about tips and tricks. It's not about applying a sort of one-size-fits-all. It's really looking at the heart of what this digital media means and how we can use it and work with it in a way that we're not just comfortable with for the short term, but in a way that makes sense for us and for the kinds of teaching that we might want to do and want to affect. So, posthumanism, posthuman education for online environments. Well, first of all, we need to start with, what is the posthuman? The prefix post doesn't necessarily suggest that humanism is dead, or that to be human is a thing of the past and that we all need to become these sort of digital natives and avatars and all the rest of it. Rather, what the posthuman does is it calls for a rethinking of what it is to be human in the 21st century, what it is to be human in and amongst all of these new technologies that now, in the current situation, we are being forced to use, that we have to move online, move our work online. So, as the scholar Donna Haraway suggests in her Cyborg Manifesto, which is a text that came out as far back as the 80s, quote, "We have never been fully human," end quote. Now, there's a lot around this statement. It contains histories and historicities of race, racialization, of plunder, of exploitation of the so-called natural world, of gendering and creating binaries and separations that have been used to create us's and them's according to this or that agenda. After the Vitruvian Man, arguably one of the first main guides for what being human was and still is all about, read male, white, European, able-bodied, etc. What does it really mean to be human? So have we ever really been human? Have we all had access to this status of being human? So these are the kinds of questions that posthumanism brings to the fore. So what on earth is this talk all about? Well, we're talking about posthumanism and the shift to online learning and online education in the midst of a global pandemic that, more than anything, is perhaps forcing us, each one of us, at the most mundane level, to think about something or rethink about something very simple, and that's touch. So flesh of all colours and contexts, bodies that matter in space and time, these are things to be worried about now. We now have a new level of fear that's layering over our already layered body. Don't touch, don't sneeze, don't have a body, it's not safe. So the digital gains from us this level of sanitation and perhaps even sanctification. It's somehow clean, it's safe. But is it really? What kinds of contagion are we layering into our digital bodies? What kinds of contagion are we laying our digital bodies bare to? Are we just becoming ghosts in the machine? The scholar Achille Bembe states, quote, The potential fusion of capitalism and animism presents a further implication, the very distinct possibility that human beings will be transformed into animate things made into coded digital data. End quote. And here they are. Here we all are, the ghosts in the machine, tapping away on our computers and holding endless Zoom or Teams or Skype meetings. So as educators and as artists being asked or required to move online and conduct all our teaching and all our art and all our research in a safe and clean way, how can we dream enough outside of the coding that we've become subjects of to stop the world that we work in from becoming a kind of graveyard, a mausoleum to the great god of code, to the god of digital standardization? I recently was recommended a book by one of the members of my new lockdown family by Neil Gaiman called The Graveyard Book. So the premise is someone tries to kill a whole family. The baby of the family escapes and crawls to a graveyard where he's brought up by ghosts. So as a pedagogue who works in posthumanism, I made strange and unlikely kin with this story. How can we emerge from the code, from being perhaps no more than ghosts in the machine, no more than a singing piece of small data in a world of increasingly big data, to create new ways of being with the digital that are meaningful and that make sense to us? So in a way, this talk is less of an instruction passed cleanly through the digital world like an untouched, sterilized data package, and more a call to dream up ways of living and thinking and educating. How do we want to haunt the world that we're creating online? And are we creating it right now? What do I mean by haunting? So, as a posthumanist, this word means a lot and has a hefty load of critical theoretical baggage to accompany it, this idea of haunting and what Karen Barad calls hauntology. In this sense, in this moment, we are quite uniquely placed with this. So the structures of the platforms we use structure the way that we platform our thinking and our practices. Zoom teaching gets Zoom thinking, Zoom practicing, Zoom being. So how do we move as disembodied educators, as ghosts in a sense, within the body that we're trying out within these platforms, these Zoom and Skype and Teams platforms? I know this sounds so grisly, so macabre, but if the flesh has been always already political, then so is the digital, that requires less of a body in space. So there's a lot of work that's been done on ideas of capitalism and necropolitics, the politics of death, and how one becomes a subject or becomes marked or identified in the world through death. So necropolitics, now that's a macabre subject. But how do we remain lively inside the machine? How do we work within the new digital platforms or bodies that try so hard to structure us, just like any other body imperative, to create post-human ways of thinking that resist, reconscript and playfully encounter the codes that are set? So this is what I propose as urgent thinking for online education, not to replicate the same old power structures elsewhere, but to roll up our ghostly sleeves and bring the mud, the paint, the blood, the clay, the fire, and the feeling into our consideration of digital material practices and art school education. So I'm a massive fan of the artist Jean Cocteau, his squiggles and sketches and, let's face it, really weird films, if you've ever seen them, speak to how I visualise and experience the idea of becoming. So when asked in an interview, "Monsieur, if your house was burning, what would be the one thing you would take?" Jean Cocteau replied, "I would take the fire." So as art school educators moving online, we are trying to develop something meaningful as we move forward into this post-human world. But perhaps we're also just doing this as people, becoming increasingly more coded and less touched by things. As the school, the university, the studio is being metaphorically burned away and turned into something new, are we prepared to reach in and bring all that fire with us? So, how do we do it? How do we take the fire? What do we want to save? And what do we want to see scorched? So, the research question, if you like, the practice question that I would pose to anyone who is thinking about how to make online teaching, particularly related to the arts, but generally make it more meaningful, make it more close to the kinds of worlds that we've been used to inhabiting and researching and thinking. The question would be, what's the one truly meaningful thing that you would want to take from the world of face-to-face learning to the world of online and digital learning? So this is a pedagogic research question. And that's how we might start to bring the lively and alive to the world of online art school, online teaching, online university. All the ways that we try and fail to bring these are the political, cultural, entangled practices that we must urgently engage with now as this new world is being built from us and around us. So what do we want to take? And by trying to think about what we want to take, like, at deeper levels, what kind of spirit of teaching and learning we want to take. Within that what, that's where the methods and the methodologies of how start to emerge, because we need to reflect on what that what really is. What do we really mean by face-to-face teaching and learning? What do we really mean by spontaneity or intuitive teaching and learning, or material teaching and learning, or the touch of clay, the touch of the paintbrush? The community of working in a group, a collaborative group, if you're devising theatre, the community of any kind of pedagogic learning circle. As soon as we start to investigate that, the methods will start to become clear. So really it's the what and the value of the what that then kind of opens the doorway, if you like, into the value of the how. What do we really mean when we talk about the spirit of face-to-face, for example? How do we take the fire with us? And what do we want to let fall away? It's really quite an interesting moment in time for us, because we are creating this new platform digital world. We are actually in the mode of creating it now, and it's actually an immensely agentic and immensely powerful position if we actually choose to take it up. So that's really the spirit, if you like, of this talk today on posthumanism and online teaching and learning, or teaching for online environments. Thank you very much.